Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about the 2 ways to drop your imaginal act for it to manifest. So this is a very important topic, one that I was confused about for years. And it's the idea that in order to manifest our desires, there's essentially 3 parts. There's the planning of the imaginal act, the one that you're going to imagine, that contains the end result of the scene that you wish to embody for the manifestation to come forth. There's the scene of embodiment, the scene of fulfillment. There's the planning of that scene. That's the first phase. The second step is actually imagining the scene, imagining in first person point of view as if you already are the person that you want to be. And then there's the third aspect, which is dropping the desire. And dropping the desire is crucial because it's basically the analog is dropping a seed into the ground. There is essentially creating the seed, and that's through imagining, and then dropping it into the ground for it to take root. And essentially what we're doing is we are using the imagination to impress upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind will then take root of the seed and then manifest it into reality. And this happens in a way that we don't fully understand, but over years and years of experimentation and testing, and a lot of the testimony from my clients is that it is essential, and in fact, it can be something in the way if we do not drop the desire. So I'd like to first address some of the misconceptions, right? Now, I just held a workshop yesterday and the day before. 2 days ago and the day before that for for dropping the desire, right? Because for the biggest desires that we have, sometimes because we want them so bad, and sometimes due to inexperience, we don't know that dropping the desire is actually a crucial part of this manifestation. And there's a lot of conflicting ideology out there, and I follow the ideology of Neville Goddard. I've proven that to be true time and time again in my life. And even on his behalf, there is verbiage that he uses to give the impression that we are to continuously persist and act as if we are the person that we want to be, when in fact later in the career, and he kind of, if you scour throughout his lectures, he talks specifically about the necessity or the need to dropping your desire. And the way that he frames it is to dropping the desire is like releasing the mental grip on the seed so that it can actually take root in the subconscious mind and manifest on the screen of space. And so in 5 lessons, which came out in 1948, it's a series of lectures, an advanced series of lectures based on the Bible, and talks about manifesting. And in one of the lessons, he says, 3 days. He says, if you can maintain in the state for 3 days without faltering, then that's the longest time it says in the Bible for it to take fruition. And he says, 3 days, if you can fully saturate yourself and completely immerse yourself in the scene for 3 days, then that's the longest time it can possibly take. But if you falter, then it's completely up to you for you to keep doing it. You set the time frame, essentially. You set the time frame by the degree to which you can immerse yourself in this imaginal act. And so here's the thing though, and I've got just something printed out from the workshop. So Neville was really big into the Kabbalah, right? And so he would basically, the idea is that the numbers used in the Bible are actually referring to symbols in the Kabbalah. And he goes into that in great detail in probably 50 or more of his lectures that are recorded. And so he says later on, though, in 1965, in one of his lectures, a woman asks him, this is what she asked him: one thing I don't quite understand. When you have a desire and you're in the end and you completely feel and act like it, do you stay in this until it is manifested, or do you stop? And Neville's response is, and I'll kind of make this shorter, but he says, no, I wouldn't say that anyone stays in it. In the course of a day, you and I change state after state after state, numberless states in the course of a day. Though we do have one to which we return back constantly. That's where we live. That state, that emotion to which we most return, constitutes the true self. It's the one that's always hatching out. If we don't like it, we should do something about planting a new tree. And he says then, he talks about a manifestation that he had just shared in his lecture. And he says, like the money I got for my friend. I did it on Wednesday. He gave it to me on Friday. On the interval, I didn't do it again. Never thought of it again. My wife asked me to do it, for it was unfinished business. So I did it. And the Bible teaches, and this is very important, this is a very critical aspect of manifesting and understanding the way in which or when a manifestation unfolds. And it's Habakkuk 3:2, and it says, every vision has its own appointed hour. And it's talking about a manifestation, a vision being the thing that you impress on your subconscious mind. It will ripen, it will flower. If it be long, wait, for it is short, and it will not be late. Different intervals of time. And then he talks about, a children takes 9 months, chicken 3 weeks, a horse a year. And he said, so different seeds have their different intervals of time. And that's also true of concepts. And concept being the concept, the thing that we impress on our subconscious mind. Man can conceive himself as this, that, and the other. And then that interval between the conception and his birth is determined by the nature of the conception. And then he says he says a lot of other things, talking about how man doesn't receive his imaginal act because he keeps conditioning it. He never drops it. And he references the number 3, by the way. The reason I brought that up is because it's the symbol for, number 3 is a symbol for resurrection, which in the way that Neville refers to it is the manifestation. So when he says 3 days, it actually is referring to, it takes as long as it takes to resurrect days. So it's not actually 3 days. So with that said, we have a couple of possibilities as to what we can do in order to drop our desire. If this didn't clear it up for you and give you relief, there's a couple ways that I teach people, my clients, and the workshops to actually do this. So there's a couple types of dropping the desire. There is the idea that, so first of all, dropping the desire could either be forgetting or detaching, or in other words, stopping imagining, stopping searching and looking, stopping finding, stopping asking for signs, all these different things. These all constitute dropping the desire, because remember, if we've imagined properly, then we've created a proper seed, and then the next step is to drop it in the subconscious mind by dropping it in reality, stopping thinking about it, essentially, not fully stopping thinking about it. But when we do that, then it will take root into the subconscious mind, and then it will begin to manifest on the screen of space in its own appointed hour. So there's a couple different ways to look at dropping the desire. So for me, after testing this thousands and thousands of times, and for most of my clients, or for those of you who have been doing the journal in the morning, which is writing down your desires and then watching to see them manifest, over time, what we can come to the conclusion of generally, if you use this technique, is that the things that manifest the easiest and fastest are the things that we drop. And in fact, the ones that we completely forget are the ones that always come the fastest. And that's been my experience. But if we don't forget it completely, that's fine. But the idea is to stop conditioning your desire. Conditioning meaning continuously imagining over and over and over and over again. We must allow the subconscious mind to do its work. We cannot it's almost like a gridlock that manifests. If we continuously shine the light on the subconscious mind, it's like continuously conditioning the seed until we finally stop, and then it drops in the ground. And when it drops in the ground, it will have its own pattern, and that pattern will erupt state after state after state, dimension after dimension after dimension, until it comes into its full fruition. But the way that I'm talking about here, which is dropping it, there's one technique you can use which will tremendously help you, and that is by testing dropping it. So if you have a big desire, one that you want more than anything in the world, one that you are even afraid to drop, right? What we have to do is test it. Now, there's a couple reasons why you may not be able to drop it. It could be the fear of dropping it and stopping it. It could be because some things manifest so quickly. So why isn't our big thing manifesting? We must be doing it wrong. That's the other thought. But I can assure you, if you've done it the same way that you're using on your small desires, I can assure you that it's still planting, right? Because everything, no matter what, is possible. Even if you've been doing it wrong all along, it doesn't matter. Everything is possible. So what we can do to systematically test to prove this to ourselves is to use various techniques, specific techniques, defined techniques, such as imagining, inner conversations, affirmations, imaginal acts. Any technique that we want, doesn't matter. Writing things down, we can use that. So we select that, and then what we do is we use 3 different desires for each of those different techniques, and then we imagine them. And then once they manifest, we can then look back and say, or didn't manifest, and we look back and say, what was the difference here? Did I think about it a lot? Did I drop it? When did I imagine it? How long did it take? Were there any signs? When we start to dissect our manifestations as they unfold, we will begin to get the full understanding of how this works. Now, a very simple way to do this, beyond testing it for manifestations in the future, is if you've been doing this for a while, reflecting on the manifestations of the past. Probably 99 out of 100 times, the conclusion will be is that after we've finished imagining, right? So the manifestation, from my experience, from doing this for about 9 years, won't come while I'm imagining. And in fact, most of them have come anywhere between an hour to 5 years down the road. Now, if you haven't been manifesting for 5 years, and then it's going to be a little bit difficult to believe that it could take a certain amount of time beyond a day or a week or a month for it to manifest. But in time, you will absolutely come to that conclusion. So the things that I had imagined in the beginning, the things that I had done properly, the things that I had imagined in first person point of view after the end result had all come to pass. Things from way long ago, 8, 9 years ago. Things that I imagined before the end, it manifested all the way up until that spot, so before the end, so not going into fruition. Things I've imagined in third person, sometimes I've gotten them, and sometimes other people have gotten them. So in the end, when you test this thoroughly and you analyze, what have I done? How did this work? How did this not work? The idea of this video, anyway, is to come to the conclusion, and you'll find this through patterns, is that dropping it is the solution. And that actually gives a tremendous relief. And it kind of reduces the insanity of constantly pretending that you are the person that you want to be, because it must have space. It must have space. So testing it is the key. Analyzing the past and checking, how long did I imagine this? How often was I obsessed over it? Did it come? Did it not come? Anything, what kind of signs were there? Which technique did I use? All things, if you begin to dissect and keep track of all these things, mastery is well on its way in your life. So the other aspect of dropping it, which is a little bit different, is the idea that we just can't stop thinking about it. Obsession. So in that case, what we want to do is still utilize that half, that what I just said, which was testing it. But the other part of it is manifesting a modification in thoughts. So the thoughts, if we keep battling our thoughts, then there probably is something else that's manifesting those thoughts. Some assumption, some fear, some jealousy, insecurity, doubt. And if we begin to modify those by imagining that we are thinking a different way, then that's how we will begin to reduce the obsession. We can imagine that we have dropped it, and whatever needs to happen in order for us to drop that desire will happen. Another thing to do is just to imagine that you've mastered manifesting and you know systematically exactly what to do in order to get what you want. Now, the things, just to be clear, the things that I share with you guys are things that I have found patterns and have made conclusions on over 8 years of manifesting. So I only will share things that I've pretty much 99 to 100% concluded are true. But definitely test this yourself, right? Now, if you're afraid to drop your desire, test it with other desires first. Watch how it works successfully. A lot of my clients, especially with specific people or big things, they know how to imagine. You know how to imagine. It's dropping that desire. That's the difficult part. And so when they implemented that aspect, that is when it manifested. So anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, definitely subscribe, hit the bell icon, stay tuned for more. Oh, and go to my website, sovereignmind.com, and register for my email list to get unlisted videos. So thank you so much for watching.